Good evening, everybody. I'm Marc Cave. 82 years ago this week, Britain gave really big, to Jewish child refugees from Nazi Germany. The famous KIndertransport trains that it laid on rescued the best part of 10,000 children who would otherwise have followed their parents to the gas chamber. It was a big thing to do. It was a kind thing to do. And tonight we're going to take a look at not just the dark side of this, but the light side, the kindness that I just mentioned, and how we can teach our children today how they can see the light and be kind too. Kind to refugees, and in fact to anybody who's persecuted simply for being the religion or the ethnicity that they are. This is all about welcoming difference, respecting people's identity, and avoiding the instinct to fear the other, and therefore to persecute them. And this is what we're raising money for tonight, because if the divisions caused by Brexit weren't bad enough, along came, of course, the coronavirus to stoke up more hate crime, and more crazy conspiracy theories. And that's, of course, what we, the National Holocaust Museum, are here to combat. Our education programs for both primary and secondary schools are here to get children to question those hateful attitudes and those conspiracy theories. And so tonight's live cast is in support of our Big Give appeal to help us do much more of that, and specifically to help 8,000 primary school children in disadvantaged communities, which are most at risk of extreme attitudes, to access a really wonderful new app that we're really proud of called The Journey, and to give their teachers the training that they need, not just to teach those first 8,000 children, but another 8,000, and then another 8,000 after that. This is a wonderful learning program, and it is sustainable. So to tonight's guests, I'm delighted to be joined by a really fascinating lineup and range of ages and stages and brilliance. So first of all, can I welcome Emily Kelsey, a teacher from Robin Hood Primary School in Nottingham. Hi, Emily.
Hiya.
And from a different school, from Holy Family Primary School in Worksop, Grainne and Rudi. Hello, chaps. We'll also be meeting somebody else called Leo, who is the star of the app that I've mentioned, that both Grainne and Rudi have been working with in recent times, as we'll see what they think of it. But first up, can I introduce a very special guest whose story typifies why we're here tonight. Hans Feiger was born in 1931 into a Jewish family and grew up in Dresden in Germany. In 1937, his family decided to move to Czechoslovakia to escape the rampant anti-Jewish hate that was sweeping through Germany because of the Nazis. But when the Nazis occupied Czechoslovakia too, it was time to take drastic action. Hans's parents decided they needed to get him and his brother out to a whole new life, even though that meant probably never seeing them again. And in fact, they didn't, and they died in Auschwitz. Hans was 7 years old, and he was a KIndertransport child, like the ones you've been seeing just before on the news footage. And he escaped literally just a matter of 2 or 3 months before World War II broke out. Now, he came to England. He grew up to lead a very successful life. He trained as an electrical engineer. He served in the RAF, and he became an Anglican vicar. And he's told his story to thousands of children and has volunteered with Oxford's youth offending team and in the Thames Valley Police Chaplaincy. And for all the immense and wonderful good work that he's done in this country, he was awarded a British Empire Medal about 12 months ago. And I'm delighted that he's here with us tonight, going by the name that we now know him as, John Fieldsend, BEM. John, good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
And it's lovely to have you. And I should say, John is a wonderful friend of the Holocaust Museum. We worked with him for many years, and he is, as you're going to find out, a very special person. So that's why I wanted to start with you, John, tonight and ask a couple of questions, if I may, about your incredible story. Now, the first question, he said very smoothly, saying that and then losing all of his notes. So please bear with me. can't believe I've done this.
Yeah, just.
What? No, I can't find the notes, but I know what.
Okay, well, I'll talk. While you're finding your notes, I'll talk about leaving home.
Well, that was what I wanted to ask, was about your journey.
Yeah.
So that, basically there we were, 80, or there you were, 80, 82, 81 years ago. And all of this stuff is going on. Obviously, the tensions were terrible. How did this process come about in your family? How did your parents broach the subject with you that it was about, you were about to go on a whole new journey?
Well, I think for them, it came to a head when we thought we were safe in Czechoslovakia, but the Nazis invaded, and I remember the tanks and the cavalry and the infantry marching through our village. All our troubles started again. There seemed to be just no way out, and I was aware of my parents talking when I thought I wasn't listening. But one day, my father called Arthur, my brother Arthur, and me, and he said, "You're going on a sit down. You're going on a long journey. We can't come with you. When the trouble's over, you can come back, or maybe we can join you. But you're going to a country called England, which I knew absolutely nothing. My father taught me to say I can't speak English. If I got here, my brother had a reasonable smattering of English. My father was pretty good at English. But my mother, who was a photographer, just took a last photograph of the three of us. And then they took us down to the local railway station. And they put us on a train. And they simply said, goodbye. As the train was leaving, my mother took her wristwatch off and passed it through the window to me and simply said, "This is for you to remember us by." I mean, I hadn't got much of a clue where we were going. Who organized that part of the train? It wasn't initially one of Nicholas Winton's trains. That train took us to Hanover, and then Nicholas stopped one of his trains from Prague, and specially to pick my brother and me up from Hanover.
Yes, I'd like to ask you, come on to him in a minute and ask you about Mr. Nicholas. But before that, can I just dig a little deeper? What did your parents say? How did they explain that it was necessary to leave? I mean, how aware were you and your brother of the extremity of the situation, the severity of the situation?
I think my parents talked mainly to my brother, and my brother became my carer. I was sort of slightly in the dark, slightly mystified. What was this journey all about? At that point, I think my abiding feeling was probably mystery, rather than excitement, rather than fear. What was all this about? I think that was my main feeling at that stage of the journey.
For the sake of maybe explaining to everyone out there, I've heard you speak many times when we've spoken before about some of the things that happened to you in the years running up to this. The things that you experienced when you go to play after school with your brother and you, with your friends, and then just tell us a little bit about how things started to change so that it became an uncomfortable situation. Remember, you talked about the sand pits and things like that.
Yeah, well, the journey to that's going back a bit. Before we actually left, when we were living in Dresden, that's when the trouble started, and we were living in a new part of Dresden. Big blocks of flats, lots of young families. We all played together quite happily, and then quite suddenly, in the middle of one game in a sandpit, where about a dozen of us lads were playing together, the other lads turned on my brother and me and just started name-calling us, "Bloody Jews, we're not going to play with you anymore." And we were punched and we were kicked. And the school we were at, which was one of the big German gymnasiums, which normally didn't allow Jewish children in, but we were allowed in because my father was so well integrated into Dresden society. But then quite suddenly, most of the other lads at school came dressed in these Hitler Youth uniforms. And so we were bullied in school, we were bullied after school. One day I was having a tickling match with my father, and he was tickling me, I was squirming. I hit my head on a central heating radiator. And my father took me off to our doctor, who looked at the cut and said, that needs stitching, that needs a stitch, but I don't stitch Jews. It was at this point, and my father's, we had so many non-Jewish friends, but they turned against us. And I think that's when we slipped across the border to Czechoslovakia and felt safe there until Czechoslovakia was invaded.
Yes, of course, and then the same with the risk of the same thing happening there too. So thank you for explaining that. I do think it helps us, create some context about why you had to leave. Some of the things that actually happened to you. It wasn't just stuff that was happening on newsreel. It was direct and personal to you. So you mentioned this amazing man, Sir Nicholas Winton. As you say, didn't start off with being a Winton train. But we do know, don't we, that about 600, 700 Jewish children escaped from Czechoslovakia with his help. I guess it was one big rescue mission, wasn't it? And of course, you knew him. In fact, he only passed away, I think, 2016, 2017. Yeah, tell us a bit about him. And he's an extraordinary man. Do tell us.
He was an extraordinary man. And actually, we found out we were living quite near him. So we got to know him quite well. I think he had this attitude, if something can be done, if it's possible, then it's got to be done. He was a member of the British Olympic fencing team. He was earning a big salary. He was 27 years old. And he realized that nobody was doing anything about the children coming out of Europe. A lot of people were doing a lot for adults, but nobody was doing anything for the children. And his idea was, well, if it's possible, it's got to be done. And if nobody's doing it, well, I ought to be doing it, or my friends and I ought to be doing it. And they simply cancelled those skiing holidays, cancelled the skiing holiday, went to Prague, set up a desk in a foyer of a hotel in Prague, contacted the Jewish community, and simply said, trust us with your children, we'll try and get them to a place of safety. That's the attitude. If it can be done, it must be done. And if nobody's doing it, I'll do it.
Now, of course, there's that wonderful TV program, That's Life, that you are in the audience that day. That Esther, for those of you out there that don't know, Esther Ranson, also a wonderful lady in her own right, presenter of the That's Life TV program. And I think we've got a clip of a very special edition when Nick Winton was on it with John and others in the audience, he says, without wanting to give the game away. Let's just have a look at this rather lovely television moment.
This is his scrapbook. There are all kinds of fascinating pictures in it. Perhaps you can see this is a picture of Nicholas Winton himself with one of the children he rescued, all the letters. But back here is the list of all the children. This is Vera Diamant, now Vera Gissing. We did find her name on his list. Vera Gissing is with us here tonight. Hello, Vera. And I should tell you that you are actually sitting next to Nicholas Winton. Hello.
I wore this around my neck, and this is the actual pass that we were given to come to England. And I'm another of the children that you saved.
Can I ask, is there anyone in our audience tonight who owes their life to Nicholas Winton? If so, could you stand up, please?
I've seen that clip so many times and it always gets me. It's so lovely. What about you, John?
Yes, well, I mean, I was there and it was just an amazing experience. But I've noticed something. Earlier on, there was a program of Esther showing a little boy on the on the right-hand page of the scrapbook. Mm-hmm. And there was just a shadow of a travel document on the other page. That was my travel document.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
That's interesting.
How lovely.
Yeah, but that program, that's life. It really changed. It changed my life because up to that point, I'd more or less put my childhood and my back. I'd put everything on the back burner. I really said, oh, you know, the past is the past. But that program has made me research my life. It's made me go back to Germany and Czechoslovakia. And it's made me link up with Bachelor of the Holocaust Center and really begin to share my story, which at first I thought it wasn't even important to me anymore. But now I'm sharing it. And, it's really changed. That program changed my life.
Well, even we then are indebted to Sir Nicholas. I didn't realise if he brought you into our arms, I'm forever grateful to him as well. So that's lovely, really lovely. You know, we're seeing photographs from your youth, and it just makes me wonder, how did you come to have them? Did you take them with you on your journey, or?
No, I came to England. I just had a little case with a minimum of perhaps one or two toys and a minimum of clothes. No, after the war, 1946, Arthur, my brother, and I received a big parcel from Czechoslovakia, a Red Cross parcel. We opened it, and there were all our family photograph albums. I really haven't a clue. Somebody may have found them and taken them to the International Red Cross, or it may be that my parents had hidden them with somebody to send on outwards. How we got those photograph albums, but they are such a treasure because they reassure me that I'm not fantasizing, I'm not making this up, that my memories are accurate. And then in the back of the third album are some photographs that my brother and I were able to send back to my parents to let them know we'd arrived at a good and safe place. And so the back pages of the album are the photographs we sent out. That must have been a tremendous reassurance to my parents.
Yes. And part of that collection, if memory serves, is a letter that is particularly special from your parents.
Yes, about the same time as we received the photograph albums, but I think separately, because I'm not sure, right. A letter, a farewell letter from my parents when they knew that they were going to be taken to a camp. And can I read the letter to you?
if that's okay, it's a poignant thing to do. Thank you.
My mother wrote, "Dear boys, when you receive this letter, the war will be over, because our friendly messenger won't be able to send it earlier. We want to say farewell to you, who were our dearest possession in the world, and only for a short time were we able to keep you. Fate has not left us for months now. In January 42, the Violets were taken. We still don't know where to and whether they're still alive. In June, Grandmother Betty. In September, Aunt Marion, Uncle Will and Paul. In October, your Steiner grandparents. In November, your 90-year-old great-grandmother and the Burmans. In December, it will be our turn. And the time has therefore come for us to turn to you again and ask you to become good men. And think of the years we were happy together. We are going into the unknown. Not a word is to be heard from those already taken. Thank the Cumsteds, that's my foster parents, thank the Cumsteds who've kept you from a similar fate. You took, of course, a piece of your poor parents' hearts with you when we decided to give you away. Give our thanks and gratitude to all who are good to you." And my father added, "Your dear mother has told you about the hard fate of all our loved ones. We too will not be spared, and we will go bravely into the unknown, with the hope that we shall yet see you again when God wills. Don't forget us, and be good." I too thank all the good people who've accepted you so nobly. And perhaps I want to add, I too thank all the good people who accepted me so nobly, because I was fostered into a wonderful family. I was very easily and quickly welcomed into the friendship circle. My foster parents had their own son who was just 7 months older than me. And my brother was in a foster home nearby, but I was just welcomed into the family so wonderfully as a stranger. It makes me think that one of the most important things in life is actually to welcome a stranger. And we can all do that. We all have our friendship circle. At school, we have our gangs. At work, we have our workmates. But it's important, I think, for all of us to look out for the people who aren't in a group, who maybe don't fit into a group, who may be strangers, to look out for the person who doesn't quite fit in. We can do that from our school days, and we can do it for the rest of our lives. I do thank all of the people who accepted me. Let's accept others.
Oh, I've gone cold, John. Wow, I really have. I've gone cold. You speak so eloquently and so beautifully, and I don't know how you can do it after reading out that letter as well. It really is quite extraordinary. You throw me off my stride. I mean, of course, it goes to the heart of everything we're talking about tonight. When you talk about, it's such a lovely little example of in everyday life of that group at the office or at school, and you stick to your own clique, but make the effort to welcome in the other. I mean, absolutely.
And it makes me think also of in the camp at Calais and in Greece, there are a whole lot of unaccompanied children there who are looking for something to take them in and a country to lure them in. Unaccompanied children are really at the heart of my feeling.
You've hit the nail on the head, and that's why you're with us tonight talking so beautifully as you are. That is what the whole learning program, of course, with this that's primary school learning program with Journey is all about, to help young people understand exactly what you've been through and what others today are going through, like you've been, and to keep the evil at bay, and like Winton and like your foster parents, to take action. So now I've recovered my composure a bit, I can talk a little bit more about the Journey program that this is all part of. So 12 years ago, everybody, we opened an exhibition at our museum in Laxton in Nottinghamshire called The Journey, and it immerses you in the life of a young Jewish boy called Leo. And you walk through the various sets in the exhibition, through a 5-year period in his life as he's a 10-year-old boy living in Nazi-controlled Berlin. And similar things befall him. It's based on his journey is based on the real life stories of John and several others. And like John, things come to a head. Kristallnacht happens, and his parents decide to put him on the KIndertransport too, to make his way to make a new life, hopefully, as John has in England. I'd like to show a little clip of the exhibition, but more importantly, of some of the school children in it and talking about it and reacting to it, and it gives you a flavour of the physical exhibition, which was the inspiration for the app that we're going to go on to talk about. So let's just have a little look at the exhibition and what it meant to one young visitor in particular.
You just need to explore the whole room and find out something about Leo and his family.
That box over there, yes. They've got toys in there which I think Leo and his sister Hannah used to play with.
I really hate school. The teacher told everyone that I was Jewish. The teacher said to me, you should go to the back of the class and should not sit with the other children again.
This says Stein. Okay, now we know this is Leo's dad's shop. We're going in there in a second, but something's happened to the shop sign.
That they've changed it.
Who's changed it?
The Nazis.
I just waved goodbye to Woody and Betty. They look so sad. They say it's better for me to be away from all the trouble, but I'd rather be with them at home than safe and alone.
Now I would feel sad that I'm moving my family because I've got 3 sisters that take care of me all the time, and I don't know what's gonna come on the other end. I don't know if my new parents are gonna like me or not, are gonna treat me well, or I don't know, because but I don't want to go from my home. It makes me feel really upset, because if I was around there, I would see if I could stop this. But even if I'm little, I would try. Even if Hitler would threaten me, I still would try. I would die in friendship.
Amazing. Amazing young girl there. See, it's a bit of a life changer, this Journey exhibition. And that's why we want to create an app version of it. Little did we know that coronavirus would come and create an altogether new need for remote learning tools. So just as well we created one, really. So what the app does is take all of the principles of that exhibition, but instead of walking physically through 5 or 6 sets at our museum, you are exploring 360-degree virtual environments, a much bigger terrain across Berlin in the 1930s, and see it through Leo's eyes. You can't get to the next stage of the story unless you complete certain exercises. So it is a bit like a video game. Shouldn't really call it that, but it is. But it's a properly educational one, because you're faced with questions along the way. And as I say, you can't get to the next stage unless you adequately respond to those questions and challenges. I'm superbly proud of it. I can't take any credit for it because it was done before I rocked up at the museum. But it's a result of 3 years painstaking historical research, beautifully put together, and comes with extraordinarily well-designed lesson plans for teachers. So tonight, that's what we're raising money for, is to be able to take more of our educators to go and train more teachers in more disadvantaged areas that really need this kind of kindness education, actually, is what it really is, as in my terms. And then once those teachers are trained up and know how to use that app with the accompanying lesson plans with their class, they can go on and use it, not just the first 8,000 that I say we're raising money for, but another 8,000 and so on and so forth, to teach a new generation of children to be kind and to stand up to hate and to prejudice and division. So please, when the signs come up on the screen, please give whatever you can. This is a here and now. This is not a history lesson. This is a here and now citizenship lesson, teaching young people to be kind and to call out hate and to stop it happening wherever they can. So there's a little trailer that I want you to see. There's lots of video clips tonight, but this one is only about 40 seconds that just gives you a little flavour of some of what I've just been describing.
Always remember who you are.
So that's a trailer for our new app, The Journey, Leo Story. It's on the App Store. It's on iPad. It's on iPhone as well as of today. And it'll be on Android in the next couple of months. Now I'd like to bring on some other guests and talk about the impact this makes. But there's one more quick video I want to show you first. I wouldn't sell you anything duff. Not only do I think this is well designed, I just want to show you what children in real life learning situations with the app think of it. We took this app to a school called St Anne's in Rotherham. It's been put as part of their history curriculum. And just take a look at what the kids had to say.
I can see a few broken windows, but this makes me feel quite upset for the Jews because they had shops. I think they might have closed the Jew shops.
Personally, I didn't like the way that the teacher made both of them come up and be like, "Oh, this German boy is better than you. He's better than you." Yeah, I didn't like it.
I want you to think of children who are going through similar experiences.
The fact is, the things that has happened in the past still has affected the present. So I feel like stuff like activists and protests, you'd want to stand up for those, stand up for the people whose lives have been in jeopardy, like Leo's.
So you found out that you're Jewish, you would have been in a concentration camp. You would have been hurt, then dead.
Yeah, but I feel like I would rather be myself than fake with something just because of who I am. I was made like this, so it's just myself.
We could donate to help them cross over. to help each other, because separated, no, we're not gonna make it. But if we're together, there's no stopping.
So there you go. Your support tonight, anything you can give through the Big Give Christmas Challenge that we're doing, will help us deliver that app to more primary schools like St Anne's, and hopefully induce more reactions like some of the wonderful reactions you saw and comments you saw from those children. We've raised, I believe, about £9,000 so far. Hopefully it's a bit more since we've been on air. We've only got tonight and another 4 more days, I think it is, to get donations in before the appeal ends next Tuesday. So please do give what you can. Now, anyway, let's switch to Emily. Emily Kelsey. Hi, Emily. Bring you in now. So Year 6 teacher and history lead from Robin Hood Primary in Nottingham, as I said before. How are you doing? You well?
Yes, very well, thank you. Long day at school,
Good.
but they all are, so there you go.
Aren't they? Yes, I know the feeling. But they're enjoyable. Looking at that clip from St Anne's, just as a teacher, I don't want to lead the witness. What does it tell you?
Well, I think immediately it's linking to the fact that you're saying, yes, it's an app for the history, but first and foremost, it's an app to... It's the kindness education, and I think the term that you use there is absolutely perfect. The point of it is honing in on one individual's experience that is making it far more impactful and understandable for children, particularly young children. And it's the perfect way for children to be able to feel some kind of sympathy and also empathy towards some of the things that were happening to Leo, the character in the story. But also it's a way for them to lead their own learning. There's a lot of research into education at the moment, which puts a huge emphasis on actually teachers stopping talking and facilitating learning for the children to find out for themselves. And this particular app is the perfect way to do that. The children are able to go on a journey themselves, and then making those decisions about what they want to see and what they want to learn and what they want to find out. And actually, I think they find out a lot about themselves and their own feelings as they go through this journey and as they go through the app. Yeah.
When you talk about feelings, you said before sympathy and empathy. What's the difference?
Well, I think that it's the fact that there are children in my class who have experienced this, have experienced that. It's linking back to what John said earlier, have experienced turning up in a school or being in a school their whole school career, their whole time at school, and never feeling really like they're part of anything. They're not part of a group, and feeling like, or as if they were part of the group, but now suddenly they're feeling like the other, or they're feeling pushed out of it. So there's kind of that side of it where they can really think, actually, I felt like that before. And I can kind of understand where they're coming from. But then also the other side of it, which I think really helps see it from the other perspective, which is those children who are thinking, actually, at break time and lunchtime, I've been leaving out that particular person. When actually what I could have done is brought them in and made them feel a bit more supported and a bit more comfortable and happy. So I think that it works on both of those levels. It's not just an emphasis on children who feel left out and feel like strangers. It's also a really good exercise for those children who actually might be the ones doing the leaving out. So and perhaps not being as kind as they should be.
So everything John was saying before, really, in the examples he was giving, you're bringing it to life. Absolutely.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
I'm dying to ask Rudi a question and Grainne, if they're there. Are you there? I can see you. Yeah, you're smiling. You're alive. You're with us. Yeah, hi. Rudi, I've been dying to ask you, actually. You must get so many things you have to read for school and do and all this stuff, and it's all. It's all good for you. But when you were using the app, did it feel like a different sort of thing to the stuff that you normally get asked to do at school? Was there and in particular, was there a character or a message in the story that you thought was important?
Well, I think a character that was most important in the story was Leo because of what he went through and his tragic story.
And what you say, tragic, which is the right word, no doubt about that. What upset you then about that?
Pardon?
What was tragic for you? What made you think, oh God, that was awful? I'm glad that wasn't me.
That people were calling Leo filthy Jews, and that Leo felt that he wasn't welcome in Germany because of all the posters and the bullying he got.
Yeah. And did you have to think hard about that? Was it, when you were doing the app, did that hit you very strongly?
Well, since I'm older, not as much, but if I was a little bit younger and I was looking on the app, that would have hit me quite strong.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. Yeah. Well, that's good. And Grainne, how about you? When did we were talking a bit before the program, and I think you were saying you first had a go with the app. When was it exactly? I can't remember.
Rudi said it was about in October.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've had a good go with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And can I ask you the same question? I know I'm not supposed to, but I can't resist as well. Was there a character that you thought was particularly interesting or meant a lot to you?
Yeah, I thought that Fritz was a very important character in this story because of how he was given the decision to either bail on his friend because he was Jewish or stick with his friend because they are friends and there's nothing different between them. It's just that one believes in something different.
Very well put. Fritz is, of course, Leo's best friend. He's a Christian German boy, and Leo's a German Jewish boy, and they're best friends, and they're classmates, and then all of a sudden things change. I think that's very, very important, Grainne. I think you make a very good point, because it's also what John and Emily just now were saying as well. It's not just a message to the person that's on the receiving end of the nastiness. It's the other people as well. And if you see it happening, if you're a Fritz and you can see your friend being bullied or abused, it's up to you to do something about it, I guess, as well, isn't it? Now, I think, Grainne, I'm not wrong in saying that you had a question to ask John.
Yes.
Is that right? Ask him your question.
So, John, over the years, you've shared your story with thousands of students and other audiences. Why did you choose to do this?
Well, I feel that what's happening in the world today, really, although it's in one sense very different what's happened in the world that I grew up in many ways, it's just repeating itself. Everywhere there are people suffering again just because they're different. And it's happening again, especially to children. I said before, there are so many young children unaccompanied, living alone in these camps. Children away from their parents, away from their friends, living amongst strangers. And they need a home, they need parents, they need care, they need love. And this country took 10,000. Nicholas got permission to bring 1,000, and this country took 10,000 unaccompanied children in 1938-39. And I think it's important that, let's have KIndertransport too. we've had KIndertransport 1. Let's have KIndertransport 2. And I know there's a lot of talk about it in Parliament. And really, I hope that Parliament will open the gates again. They opened the gates to Nicholas Winton's children. They opened their gates to us. They opened their gates to me. So let's see whether the government will open the gates again, and that more unaccompanied children can find a loving home. That would be great.
Does that answer your question, Grainne? Yeah,
I haven't quite answered it. For years, I kept my story. Well, I didn't even know my story properly until more recently, and I researched it. But I don't think my story is unique. And I think I don't enjoy going around schools telling it. It's not something I enjoy, but it's something which is extremely fulfilling. And it's really raised my feeling, my confidence. It's raised my admiration for the generation that's coming up. They're much more mature, much more thoughtful than my generation ever was. I'm sure that I admire the school students of today, and I enjoy sharing with them.
How do you find them more mature? That's an interesting point.
Well, the questions they ask me, I wouldn't have even dreamt of when I was their age. One question, which I still can't answer, actually she was an Asian girl, asked me, if you had been born an Aryan boy in Germany instead of a Jewish boy, whose side would you have been on?
How do you answer
that question? That's a deep question. And
so you ducked it.
Well, I did actually duck it. It's the only question I've ever. There's one other question. A 10-year-old girl looked me in the face and said, Neville Chamberlain or Winston Churchill, who was the better prime minister and why?
Wow.
So I think they are more thoughtful than we ever were.
Emily, what would you do in that situation? We asked questions like that of your class.
I mean, some of the questions I get asked are, as you can imagine, often quite difficult to answer. But I think, John, you reacted incredibly well in that situation. I don't think I could have reacted any better than that. Obviously, very experienced in answering those sorts of questions, I can tell.
Very good.
I can give you one more example, which really has nothing to do with this, but it has everything to do with it. I'd shared with a class in a school, in our local school actually, and the teacher said to me, well, we've listened to my class have listened to you. Will you come into my class and listen to my students? And they were year 9s. I said, yes, what's the subject? And she said, sex education. I was with this 9-year-old class, and the way they handled the topic was so much more mature than we ever did at their age. I admire the young people of today.
I feel the need to step in and moderate this conversation before it takes any more unfortunate turns. That's to be taken offline, as they say, I think. Good story, though. Good story. Emily, is there anything that you think that people would want to ask John? So we put the app to one side for a minute, but listening to John, the app is so fairly and squarely based on the experiences of people like John. It's, as you know, it's an authentic thing, but having the opportunity to have John with us, in the flesh, well, virtually in the flesh, if you know what I mean, it's It's a wonderful thing. And I just wondered if you had anything that you wanted to put to him or on behalf of the kids that you teach.
Well, I mean, it's an honour, like you say, to actually be able to speak to you, John. It really is, and I'm looking forward to when I'll be able to bring my class into the Holocaust Centre, and we can hear people like you speak and tell your story properly. Because there's only so much that I can do in a classroom, essentially. I think what a lot of the children, when we were having a look through the app earlier this week, and I think that what a lot of the questions that were coming up from the children was what happens next. It was a very much a what are they doing now? And a lot of the children had explained, Leo isn't an actual person. It's his stories based on fact, on testimony, but it's kind of an amalgamation of lots of different stories and experiences. But the question kept remaining: what happened to Leo next? When he got to Britain, what happened? What was his job? Did he have a family? I think they like children. I mean, Rudi and Grainne, you could back me up on this, or you could tell me I'm wrong. I'm talking for children, so please tell me I'm wrong if I am. But a lot of the time, they want to know what happens at the end. They want there to be something positive, a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think, John, if you were in my classroom and you were in front of the children in my class, they'd want to know about you now. So I think that Grainne's question asking, why do you go around schools? Why are you reliving this? I think that's a perfect question. And I think they probably want to know what happened once you got to Britain. What did you go on to do then? Where did you study? What were your new friends like? What job did you end up doing? Have you got a family? So I think it's kind of the emphasis on that personalisation on someone's individual story. So I think that's what I would ask, would be the what happened next. And I think the children would often jump to that question as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even in asking that question, which is a great one, I guess that gets them into the zone, doesn't it? Of now they're into England, and they're the newcomer, they're the stranger, they're the new kid on the block, literally. And it's how do they integrate into society, and all the rest of everything that John was talking about earlier. So I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, there's a question that's come in from the audience. It's a question for Rudi. Rudi, are you ready? I know, get ready. I don't think it's too hard. It's just your opinion, so there's no right or wrong to it. It's from Hannah Smith. And Hannah asks you, Rudi, do you agree that we should have another KIndertransport today, a KIndertransport 2, and help children who are refugees today?
Yes, I think we need another KIndertransport so we can have more refugees be in a safer area, because if it's not a safer area and they're only children, then they're not going to live their lives properly and they're not going to experience the adult experience that they should do when they're older.
Well, I hope if they come over, I hope they're in your class, because it sounds like you give them a lovely welcome. That's a lovely answer. Thank you. I think we should call it KIndertransport, not KIndertransport, because everyone should be kinder. That's the advertising campaign sorted out then. Now we've just got to get the train sorted out. Actually, it's I meant to say before that in the coronavirus, with the pandemic that's going on, I don't know how it is for all of you, but you see stuff on the news the whole time. There's a terrible this piece about this week on the BBC about how hard it is in Burnley. I don't know why they picked on Burnley, but they did. And you read all the time about the more that people get worried about not having money anymore, being out of a job or not even having food. Can you believe in Britain in 2020 they're worrying about not having enough food? All those things actually then unfortunately make people scared, angry, and that's how people then start to pick on other people a lot of the time. There there was a survey done by Oxford University. I think we've got the clip of it somewhere. If we can find it, but if we can't, no matter. A survey was done in May of this year that Oxford University carried out. And the people told Oxford University, 1 in 5 British people told Oxford University that they thought the coronavirus was invented for financial gain, for money, by Jews or Muslims. In May this year. I think it's coming from the screen now. It's something that Newsweek reported about, but all the newspapers talked about in the BBC. Grainne, what do you think of that? Does that just sound bonkers to you, or?
I really disagree, because I don't know why anyone would think that coronavirus was on purpose or anyone has made it, and the fact that they've then just blamed it on people that are a different religion, it's just not fair on them, and they have no reason to start blaming them for anything.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think I can add to that. Bang on. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay, well, I want to thank all of you very much indeed for coming on tonight. I really enjoyed chatting to you, and maybe we can chat more after the program, but it was probably nearing the end. But I'm really grateful to everyone for joining. Emily, maybe a final word from you, if you want, because you speak so well. Everyone's spoken so eloquently tonight, but because this is a big Give Christmas Challenge appeal, and because I really am keen for, whatever people can donate to help get this app into the classrooms everywhere, certainly the first 8,000 kids. As a teacher, as someone who's familiar with this stuff and the work we're trying to do, if there's any way that you could just summarize about why you think it's so vital that people out there could donate tonight.
Well, I'll try my best to summarise. I could go on for hours for why they should, but I'll try my best to keep it brief because it is nearly bedtime. I do understand. I think that the main thing is, for me, I'm very clued up on the knowledge related to the Holocaust Centre and to KIndertransport. I'm very comfortable teaching it. I'm not fazed by some of the questions that may come up. So for myself, being able to sort of have a new facility for those children to be able to explore for themselves, and then also be sort of questioning me and finding out new things from me as a source in the classroom, but also using the app as a different form of a source in the classroom, is just incredible to see. Again, the child-led learning, they're able to take their own path and decide what Leo wants to do for himself, rather than sort of it being me dictating sort of this is what happens, and these are the particular sources that I want you to use, and build your opinion off of what I've given you. Essentially, it's they're more able to do it for themselves, which I think is incredible. I also think from the perspective of teachers who aren't confident with the history, this is the sort of topic that perhaps could be avoided by some educators because of the potential questions that come up. There are lots of teachers who may feel that they aren't clued up enough on the subject, and therefore they're better off teaching something that perhaps they're more familiar with. They may be nervous about the sort of questions that come up, again, like I said, and they don't know how to answer it in the correct way. But I think that the app is a way around that. The app answers those questions for the children. And the teachers I actually showed the app to some of my colleagues that were less confident in teaching this particular type of history or this education, as you said earlier, Marc. And I said to them, would you be happy to use this in the classroom? Would you feel more confident teaching Holocaust education if you had this resource at your fingertips? And they said 100% yes. The pressure is completely taken off the educator, and there doesn't need to be that sort of more kind of professional understanding of the whole concept and the theme that comes with it. And linking with that as well, I do just want to, I know you briefly mentioned the planning earlier that's been created, but I just want to mention it again. The planning that has been put together by the National Holocaust Centre for teachers is absolutely fantastic. I will be using it in the classroom. It's just, I mean, first and foremost, it is going to save a huge amount of time for teachers. We have no time at all. So these sorts of resources being there and ready for us, they're incredibly detailed. They the children are given specific tasks and outcomes, and they also link to the app as well. So everything is done for the educators, and the children are being delivered fantastic lessons in an environment that they feel comfortable and safe and happy. And I can't recommend the planning that's come with it enough. You can tell that the people that have put this together know what they are doing. They know how educators work. They know how schools work, and they know how this kind of subject needs to be taught. And the final point I'll make, and then I promise I will stop, is that there's, after coronavirus, or during coronavirus, there has been a lot of talk of schools having a lot of money thrown at them as catch-up funding. And although that is something that has happened, we have received money. In a particular school that I work in, there is high level of deprivation. And a lot of the money is going towards the academic side, getting them through the academic learning. So making sure that the support for their maths is there, making sure that the support for their English is there. And I don't disagree with that at all. But it does mean that areas like PSHE, citizenship, history, these areas of the curriculum which from my point of view is almost more important than the maths and the English, which is still being thrown at these children. This is the sort of fund that would be able to support the learning and the development of children as young human beings. And for me, at this time more than ever, that's what these children need, and that's what us as educators need. We need that facility to be able to give these children a voice and to be able to give these children the opportunity to start to consider one another a little bit differently, especially being in lockdown for so long. They're thrown back into the classroom. There's all of these issues that are going on because they're not used to physically being around other people anymore. And this is the sort of resource that is really going to help them start to appreciate themselves again, but also appreciate those around them, and that kindness that can come again, that kindness education that is going to come from this app. So I can't recommend it enough, and that I'll stop now. But I think it's obvious Emily, what my opinion is of it.
I think it is. I think we may have to sign you up as an ambassador or to run our place.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was really lovely of you. Okay. Well, I think we're drawing now to a close. Thank you to everybody who's taken part. I just want to say that every pound that you do give out there tonight and for the next couple of days, as I say, I think we've got 4 days till the big Give Challenge ends Tuesday. But every pound you give will gets doubled. And that's thanks to the generosity of some very nice people out there. Our big Give champion, the Reed Foundation, and also David and Susan Graff and the Chillag Family Charitable Trust. Now, all these people have very kindly said that whatever money you give, they will match. So that's why I say every pound that's donated gets doubled. So I'd like to thank very profusely the Reed Foundation, the Graffs and the Chillags. I'd like to thank Grainne and Rudi for joining us and being so, if I may say, punchy, and you got really strong opinions, and that's brilliant. And keep it up and keep fighting the good fight. Emily, You're a marvel. What more can I say? Thank you. And John, words often fail me. You reduced me to a quivering wreck at least once tonight. And without your example, our whole journey learning program would be so much the weaker. Thank you for everything you do, and thank you very much for tonight. To everyone else out there who's watching, thanks for watching. I hope you took something from it, and I hope you give us something back. Please give. The donation link, I think, is on the screen, and if it's not, it's certainly in the chat box on YouTube to the right-hand side of your screen. For now, thank you again, everybody, and good night.